Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. This week we're doing a summer replay of an episode we recorded a few years ago, and we're talking about books. Join us as we share why we read, what makes a great book, our favorite recommendations, and more. Let's get started. The lazy days of summer are coming. And for some of us, they're already here in terms of school being out. And for others of us in different parts of the country, we'll be waiting a little longer until June. But either way, I think a lot of women fantasize about themselves reading in a hammock or by the pool or at the beach or even just on the porch once summer hits. We imagine we'll have some carefree reading time. Am I right, Julie?
Yes, I do tend to read more in the summer, and I guess my spot would be on my porch. So I do look forward to that.
Yes. And so it definitely seems like a good time to talk about books. Mindy's taking a little break this week to get moved into her new house. If you listen to our update episode, then you know that Mindy recently moved to Georgia. So she's moving in, and Julie and I are joined by our friend Cheryl Alt. And some of you may recognize Cheryl from our Facebook Marketplace episode. That was episode 117, and if you have not heard it, you definitely want to go back and get lots of tips and tricks for how to decorate your house using Facebook Marketplace finds. But Cheryl, we're so glad to have you back, and this time talking about books.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love books.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a decorator and a reader.
Yes, she's a woman of multi-talents. But in addition to decorating her house with great bargains, Cheryl is also a very avid reader. She is constantly texting me books that she has read that she thinks I should try. I think she reads multiple books per week. And the three of us, Julie, Cheryl, and I, have all been in the same book club for, I couldn't remember, girls. Has it been like 6 years?
I was thinking right. 5, but I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it has been a while. And so we have read a ton of books. And we meet once a month with about 8 other women. And we used to have dinner before we started. Then COVID hit and we moved to some snacks. And now we've just completely cut out the food because that makes it easier for whoever's hosting.
Perfect.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if we'll ever go back to having dinner, but we always enjoy our book discussions. At least I do. How about you girls?
Oh, absolutely. I love them.
And you've been leading quite a few of them, Cheryl.
Yes, I have been because I've been recommending the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think book club I haven't been as active recently, but it does get me to read books that I wouldn't normally read, which I don't always like that, but it does. I tend to want to read the same book, so it does help me branch out.
Yes, yes. So our goal today with this episode, listeners, is to give you some great book recommendations, but also we want to talk about our reading journeys and maybe even inspire some reluctant readers to give it a go. Because I think some of you may be tempted to turn off this episode, but I urge you to stick with it because you know that no matter what we talk about, we always tie it into real life and stories and things that will be relevant. So even if you're not a reader, stay tuned.
Yeah, and I'm probably the least big reader of this group. And I have really kind of come into reading later in life.
Okay.
So it can happen.
Yes, yes. Well, I think before we get started with actual book titles and things, we should talk a little bit about why we read. And I think on the surface, that question seems so obvious. And you think, well, what could there really be to say about that? But if you really delve down deep and you listen to why people read, there are a lot of different reasons. So, Cheryl, since you're our guest, why don't you start us off? Why do you read?
Well, I would definitely say I read to get lost in the characters of the book and maybe try and relate a little bit with them. Some of my books I wouldn't because they're about murder, so I would hope that wouldn't happen. But but I like to get lost in the characters. Just this last book that I read was about a murder, and like I was walking and I felt funny, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so lost in the character. I think the guy's right behind me. I was just so lost in it. That's why I read.
Yes, and that's a sign of a good book that you are actually fearful while you're reading it.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Julie, why do you read?
I get drawn into another time, another place. I really like historical fiction, so a lot of it's about the time and place for me. I do love the characters, and I always like to think about the situation they're in, like, what would I do? How would I react? There's a lot of high expectations for books for me. And maybe that's why I don't read as much. But I want to come away different, like inspired, hopeful, or even just more informed about a time or a place in the world or something. I just want to be inspired to be a better person. And I do not ever read to be scared, horrified, or depressed. There has to be some redemption there. There has to be something good. Which I read a lot of World War II novels, historical fiction.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've romanticized war, but I can handle some dark, scary things as long as it turns out okay in the end.
Yeah. Well, I have always loved to read since the time I can really remember. And I always love to read for escape. And I feel like I have been so many places in the world and been so many different kinds of people and experienced so many different things just by reading about them. Like, I really feel like I've done them, like I've been inside their heads, like I've thought about that, like I've experienced that time. Mm-hmm. Those are the reasons that I read. I love to escape and get lost in a book. And that's one of the reasons why I do not enjoy reading nonfiction, because that's not escape. That's like improving yourself or learning about something. But I want true escape. And like you said, Cheryl, like I just become those characters. Like I really feel like I could be them. In book club, we recently read about horsemanship. And it was all this riding horses and things like that as part of the novel. And I seriously felt like I could ride a horse. Like I knew I could be in the ring and win a gold ribbon or whatever it's called, a blue ribbon. Like I just get so lost. I just want to be those people. And then the whole time I'm reading the book, I am there. So
that was a good book.
Yes.
That was a good book.
Yes. What was that one called, just in case listeners are wondering? It was called The $80 Champion.
$80 Champion.
Yeah.
Yes. It was about a horse that was bought off the meat truck, or like the horse meat or pet food truck for $80. Oh, okay. Yes. The glue factory. And it became a champion jumper. And by the end, you will feel like you could too jump a horse. So It was a good one. But anyways, that is why I read. All right, well, let's get started way back when we first started reading, and it'll probably be different for everyone. We want to talk about what's the first book you read that made an impact on you beyond children's books. So I would consider children's books maybe to be books that were read to you. I do think that even books that you read yourself, like novels or something as a child, can have a big impact on you. So if you have to reach way back there, you can. But Cheryl, what was the first book that you ever read that made a big impact on you?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about me, though, because I actually despised reading when I was a child. Like,
That's okay.
I was that girl in high school that read the Cliff Notes.
Like
I would try to read
Cheryl.
the books. I would try to read the books, and then I'd pick up the Cliff Notes. So the first novel that made an impact on me would have been one that I just recently read, I think 2 years ago now, The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton, which was the guy that was locked up for 32 years, and he was innocent. He wrote a book about that. Another one was The Educated book by Terri Westover. That one was really good as well. So both of those really were, because they were about real life, and, made me want to go out and be better myself and help others. So those were both really good.
Right. Julie, what was the first book that you ever read that made a big impact on you?
Well, like Cheryl, I despised reading as a child. I just got by with the bare minimum. And my mother loved to read. So I know she thought, oh, Julie's really missing out, And I just always remember on her bookshelf seeing this book called Christy by Catherine Marshall. And I did read it in my late teens, maybe 20s. And I really liked it because Christy was about my age. And maybe that was kind of why I liked it. Just starting off with her adult life. And she was this feisty girl who moves to this impoverished area in the Smoky Mountains and to teach school. And I guess that setting kind of holds a special place for me, being from Tennessee. And I think it was at the turn of the century, 19th century. 20th century. The people that lived there, lived these really harsh lives. They had a lot of weird, curious customs and superstitions. So her faith was really tested. But by the end of the novel, you grow and she grows to really love the people there. And there's romance, adventure, suspense, and it's even funny. So for me, that's one of those books you could reread every 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I have read that book. It was a good one. I always love a story like set kind of historical fiction and people are having rough lives and I always go for a storyline like that. And Cheryl, I too enjoyed Educated. I thought that was excellent. I tried to read The Sun Don't Shine. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, The Sun Does Shine.
For some reason, and I don't mind a hard story, but for some reason, somebody losing like 32 years of their life behind bars, I can't read about it. It's so
Well, they also made
sad.
a movie. Now I read the book first and then I watched the movie. And the movie and the book were very equal. Like I loved them both.
Well, maybe I should try the movie then because I started it and it was like in the courtroom and I knew he was going to be going to jail and I just thought, oh, there's not even any hope when I turn the page that it's going to go a different way. Like that's what's
and
hard
it's a true story, right?
Yeah.
So that's a true story.
That's what makes those hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know how they're going to go. There's no like author license to change things. But I would have to say that the first books that made an impact on me, and probably many people of our generation, were the Little House books. I can remember reading those in first grade, starting with them. And I read them multiple times, each one throughout my childhood. And of course, when we were growing up, the TV show was also on Monday nights. So it was like, I don't know, I felt like that whole series, the TV show and the books, was instrumental in my upbringing.
I loved the show.
Yeah, you love the show. That's funny.
I did too. And I did have a teacher that read those aloud, so I did get to hear those. I just didn't enjoy reading myself, but
my sister read all of them.
Okay, yes. Well, and then when I had my first child, who was a girl, when I had Abigail, do you remember those like magazines or flyers that used to come in the mail? It was kind of like when you used to order 12 tapes for 12 cents or something, you could order books that way. And I remember I ordered the whole set of Little House books because I was just convinced, here she is, a tiny little baby, that this was going to be our thing. We had to own these. Like, what if libraries disappeared and we couldn't get them out someday? But I actually reread them then at that point in my life just because I had them there on the shelf and they were still just as good. I mean, you can get something out of them at any age.
Yes. Those are timeless books.
You still have them?
I do. And none of my girls ever loved them the way I did. I think Abigail read them all once. I don't even know if Lydia and Lauren ever read anything more than the ones. I think I might have read the first two to them and they were bored. Like, I think maybe our generation was the last one to love them. What do you guys think? Did your girls read them?
Well, mine didn't because I didn't have them.
Oh, okay. But you could get them out of the library.
Well, that's true.
I remember Molly loved Farmer Boy. That was her favorite.
That was a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so funny you said that, Marie, because when I found out I was going to be a grandmother, I went and bought hardback copies of all those kinds of books. Like, all the Little House, all the Narnia, Mary Poppins, Peter Pan. Just like I had to have a grandmother library.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
All right. Well, let's talk about series because I love a good series. I love it when I can get started on one book and there are more to come. So what are some series that you guys have enjoyed? Cheryl, do you have anything to share with listeners?
Well, I would say for me, believe it or not, it's way, way back. Like when I first started reading for like a lot back in 2004 when my first went to kindergarten, or my last went to kindergarten, sorry. Terri Blackstock, she does a Cape Refuge series.
Oh, I read those.
That was so good. Like I still would, like I would go back and reread those. It's been so many years, but I just love those and I could not wait till the next one came out. I really like that series.
I forgot about her. I did read a lot of hers. In that time period. Yeah.
Is First Light or Last Light in that series?
I think Last Light is the last book. that Cape Refuge.
Yeah.
There was 4 or 5 books in that series. There weren't that many, but I loved all of them.
Okay. Well, good. Julie, do you have a series that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, mine's an old one too. The author is Bodie, Thoene, Thoene is how you spell her last name. And it's the Zion Covenant series. I think there's like 7 or 9 books in it, and it opens pre-World War II in Vienna. And there's a main character, Elisa. She's this professional violin player, and she has Jewish heritage. So she changes her name so that she can kind of stay off the radar and travel and play in Germany because that was forbidden. And she meets up with the New York Times reporter who's in Vienna, and they both end up like working with the Jewish underground, helping Jews escape out of Austria. And then each series is set in a different city. Like the first one's Vienna, then Prague, then Munich, then Warsaw, London, and Paris. I love the historical nature of it, and then getting to read about all those cities. There's intrigue, danger, and there's romance. So
yes,
that's really good. I really got hooked into that one.
I can remember reading those a really long time ago too.
Yeah.
And they were really good. Yeah. I thought of a series that I really did love. So I was in college doing an internship in a rehab place, and I had a patient, and we were talking about books, and he was the one that recommended this series to me. And I always think of him if I see her books because she's quite famous. Have you ever read the Sue Grafton books? They start out with like A is for alibi.
Yes. Well, I've heard of all of them. Have you read all of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if I got all the way to Z. Like, I think I read everything that she had written up to that time. And then as they would come out over the years, I don't know, she might have been up to like M or something when I started reading them. And then as they would come out. But it follows the same detective in every one. And then each case is kind of like, each book starts with a letter of the alphabet. So those were good. I really enjoyed those for a while. And I would recommend those for, they're not scary, but they're just interesting.
I've heard people talk about those.
Yeah, you can always find them like at library book sales.
Yeah, because they've been around a while.
They have. So that was a good series that I enjoyed, kind of a mystery series. I mean, I was thinking about all the things that I've been. I've been a detective. I've been a prostitute. I've been a mistress. I've been, hiding in the underground. I've been, a world famous jumper. I've just been so many things through reading. And so
I've been in World War II so many times.
You're stuck in World War II.
I'm stuck. I can't get out.
Yes. I've had kids that need bone marrow transplants, and I've had Alzheimer's. I've just had so many things through reading. So it's just amazing, all the things. And when you pick up a book again, you're like, oh yeah, I remember it was like to be that person. So anyways, favorite series, those are always fun. Do you guys have a favorite author? Who do you, like, if you see their book has come out, Cheryl, who do you make a beeline for?
Well, the only author that I buy books for him now is Nicholas Sparks. And so he, and I know a lot of people are like, it's hokey. He has the same endings for all of his books. but those were the first books that I read, whatever was out in 2004 when I started really reading. And I still buy them to this day. Now, he does not write very often. Like, he'll write one book every 2 to 3 years. But those are ones also that I buy and I have on my shelf because they're so pretty. Like, I like the look of them.
What's your favorite?
Covers. Oh, The Notebook probably is my favorite. But I read it before I watched the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably my favorite. And of course, that was one of his early ones that he wrote. So,
yeah.
But my favorite author now, and I've told y'all this, would be Diane Chamberlain. Like, I am scarfing up all of her books right now. I just love the way she writes. Say that again.
What is one of her books?
The Dream Daughter is the one I started with, and it's just fascinating. It's about time travel. Don't let that stop you. But it's about a woman who had a daughter, was pregnant with a daughter, and it needed a surgery, but she was in the 60s, and they didn't have this groundbreaking surgery. So her brother-in-law, who was from the future, sent her to 2002 to have the surgery. And she time travels back to another era, like in the 80s. And this was before her child was born. So, like, she doesn't mess with anything, but it is just fascinating. It's so good. And it ends really good. Like, it's a great book. And so, any of the other ones that I've read recently for her, I've just loved. Like, I'm just reading them all the time.
Yeah. Cheryl had sent me a Dream Daughter, and at first with the time travel, I was like, but I decided to listen to, and it was really interesting. I enjoyed it.
It has a lot of history in it, too.
It did, yes.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about Vietnam, and you don't really ever hear that much about Vietnam, so I enjoyed learning something about that, too. It was really good. Yeah, I that's what I do, Cheryl, is I get on a favorite author, and then I read everything by them.
Yeah.
And I kind of OD on them.
Yeah.
Like, I can remember John Grisham. So I read everything he had back, like, when Abigail was a baby in those years. And then every time he would have a new one, I would get it. But now I've kind of OD'd on him. Now I kind of feel like within the first chapter or two, I can figure out how it's going to end. And I don't run right out anymore, and get it. But that's what I do every single time with a favorite author. Do you have one, Julie, a favorite author?
I tend to have more authors from the past that I like to read.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say of new current authors, I really like Kristin Hannah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Read several of her books, which we'll probably talk about later, but The Nightingale and Never Alone were two that I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as an old author, I love Jean Stratton Porter. And she is a writer from I think she's from Indiana, and she writes a lot of natural things, animals, plants, and stuffs that are the settings of her stories. They're not about that, but that's the setting. And she just has wonderful characters. And some of her books are Laddie, Freckles, Girl of the Limberlost, and Keeper of the Bees. And so she's one of those that I would read all of her books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some other authors that I've kind of binged over the years, I read everything Liane Moriarty wrote. I just love her. Probably her famous one, What Alice Forgot, but I also loved The Husband's Secret. We read The Husband's Secret in book club, but her books were just fun. They were like lighthearted beach reading type things. I love anything that Anna Quinlan writes. I usually always enjoy what she has written. I've enjoyed a lot of Mary Kubica, like as far as kind of like just like a little bit of mystery type. I don't know. I feel like I get on an author and then I really like to just read everything they have. Who was the other one that we were enjoying, Cheryl, last year? Sally Hepworth, when we read The Mother-in-Law.
Was really good.
Yeah, and then she had some other ones. So if they write one good one, then I'm going to read every single one of them. Kristin Hannah is one of those for me too, Julie. I just love all of her books.
Yeah. The Four Winds, which is Kristin Hannah's latest one, that was really good.
That's the Dust Bowl one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned so much about the Dust Bowl. Again, another part of history that you don't hear that much about and that I didn't really know that much about. And so I learned a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite classic? Now, Cheryl, you said that you haven't always been a reader. So do you have a classic that you like to read?
No.
Okay.
No.
Let's just get honest here.
I don't read classics. Let's just be honest. I mean, like we did. I will say, didn't we do Little Women in book club?
I
know we did Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
But we didn't do Little Women. Maybe it was just my daughter recommended.
Or maybe the movie came out recently and you went to see the movie.
That's what it was. Yeah. And my daughter told me you have to read the book first. So I did. And I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
But I wouldn't necessarily go back and read it again, I don't think. So classics, I don't know. Like I've tried to read the Jane Austen books because she's all about those. And I'm like, ugh, you just can't. Just can't.
Yeah.
You either love them or you hate them, probably.
Yeah, I know. I read those in college, not for a class, but I think during one summer, just because there wasn't probably a lot at the library and I'd exhausted all my other options. And I did enjoy them, but I've never had the desire to go back and read them again.
Right.
Yeah. Is there a classic that you like to reread, Julie?
There is one. I remember it was probably 15 years ago, kind of when I was starting to get into reading. I just had this kind of a guilt trip about missing all the classics in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I haven't given them a fair shake. So I read all summer and I picked classics. And the one that was my favorite was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And, that's the one that starts, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I've always been intrigued by the French Revolution. I'm sure I've romanticized what a revolution is like.
I'm sure.
Like Dickens is kind of known for his great characters and lots of dialogue. I think he was paid by the word. But this book is not like that because I don't like a lot of dialogue. Like that's kind of why I can't get through Pride and Prejudice. But it has a lot of memorable images like storming the Bastille, heads being chopped off at the guillotine, secrets and spies. There's even like a mistaken identity. There's a sacrificial death at the end. Like it's just, I don't know. It's just full. It just kind of checks all the boxes for me with the history, and it's in London and Paris. So I really, really, really like that one. And I've probably read it 3 times. And it does kind of have a theme of resurrection and renewal. Like it has a hopeful theme. So,
I mean, I'm sure I read that book in high school, but I can't. The only thing that sounds familiar is when you said it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But maybe I should give it another try. Because I do think that maybe even listening to a classic might help me. Audiobooks really were so boring before, or maybe they weren't even around. So maybe listening might help me get through it. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably my most favorite classic that I do like to read, and some people might not even call this a classic, but I think it is, Gone with the Wind is a classic to me. And I've read it multiple times in my life at multiple stages, as a kid, as a teenager, as a college person, as a young adult, and I always get something new out of it. It's like meeting up with an old friend. Like, it's just so comforting to reread the words and reread the scenes and see it through whatever age you're at then. And so I really do like to reread that one. And that's one that I actually listened to audio a couple of years ago when we were going to read a classic in book club and we picked Gone with the Wind. I thought, well, I don't want to just read it again. I'll listen. And it was like a whole new experience.
Yeah, we've talked about that book enough on the podcast. I'm going to have to give it a try.
Listen to it, Julie, though.
And I'll listen to it, yeah.
Yeah, I do think listening to it's the way to go. It's a lot of hours, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, is there a book that you like to reread and reread again? To read and reread again, Cheryl. I know you said it's not a classic, but is there a different book that you like to read multiple times?
No. I just think there's so many books to find and read. Like, why would I want to reread something? I mean, there isn't. No. I want to go on to the next.
Well, why do you buy the books then? I'm always curious about people that buy books. Why do you buy the books? Not in hopes of rereading them then.
Well, at first I bought them, because they were pretty covers. The Nicholas Sparks books, those are the only ones that I still own.
Okay.
And just because they have pretty colors. But I also think in the back of my mind, I can recommend this book to somebody and I can loan them my copy. Just so that I can have it and hand it to them so I can share.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really never happened. So I don't know.
It's never happened.
I might tell somebody about it. And if they ask me to borrow it, I'm happy to have them borrow it. But I don't necessarily have the book with me and say, hey, this is a good book.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So no rereading for Cheryl at all.
No.
Okay. Julie, do you like to reread?
Yes. And I guess maybe what you just said kind of helped me figure this out. I don't love books enough that I just keep finding new books I like. So I just go back to the same ones. I don't know why that is. So this book called The Hawk and the Dove by Penelope Wilcox just drew me in from the start. And it's a little series of stories within a story. So there's this mother who shares stories from her long ago family history that had been passed down, generation to generation. And she shares these stories with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the setting for the stories that she's telling is a 14th century Benedictine abbey in England. So before you go, ugh, you really, really, really grow to love these characters, even though, these are men of God, these are monks. you find out how human and flawed they really are. They really struggle with things, interpersonal things and things, trouble getting along with other people. And, I just love how real the characters are. And the main character, Father Peregrine, he's the abbot at the abbey. He is very respected and almost feared, but he's not loved. And something really, really horrific happens to him. And as the story unfolds, you watch all of the brothers come to dearly, dearly love him. And it's because his suffering actually changes him. And I tried to think about why I love this book so much. And I can remember the very first time I read it, it's probably been 12 years ago. I just thought, wow, if I ever have to suffer, which is pretty naive to say if we ever have to suffer, I hope I could do it like him. It was just so inspiring. For what he has to endure and how well he comes through it. So.
Yeah, that was a good book. We actually read that one in book club. Cheryl, I don't know if you remember. We read that one.
It.
Yeah, it was a good one. And that was actually my second time reading it because, Julie, you had recommended it to me several years ago, and I do think it's really good. Is there a book I like to read and reread? I mean, I rarely buy a book. So if I own a book, it's because I wanted to be able to reread it, and I probably have reread it. Like, I don't spend money on books because I'm a very fast reader. And I think, well, why bother? Why even own this book? And there's so many libraries out there in the world. I could never exhaust free books. So, I rarely buy a book. But if I have bought a book, it's because I loved it. And I've probably read it more than once. So here's 2 books that I've really enjoyed rereading. One we read in book club, and it was called Defending Jacob. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but it actually, I think Apple, like the streaming service Apple, then made a series based on the book. But long before the series, there's this book by William Landay. And Defending Jacob, I've tried to read some of his other ones, and they really weren't that good, but I feel like this one is good enough to own. I've read it multiple times, and it has such a great ending. Like, I don't even want to reveal anything about it, except that it is a kind of murder mystery type. But every single person in book club was like, oh my goodness, that ending. And
Except me.
Except Julie.
Yeah, that was one of those too real, too dark, too scary for me. So.
And I love a book with a surprise ending. I mean, I'll read the whole thing just to recommend the surprise ending to someone because I love a twist. I don't like to be able to predict how something ends. So that was really good. Another one that I've read multiple times and actually do own is Anna Quinlan, Every Last One. And again, when you read it, you're like, really, Marie? So this is about a middle-aged woman. She's caring for her 3 teenage kids. She has a normal women in the middle years life. Like, I could really relate to that part of her life. 2 of her children and her husband are murdered. How that comes about is very interesting. And also there are so many observations. I just think Anna Quinlan is just the queen of just observing women and saying what they think, and just all the thoughts about midlife and your teenagers, how you view them and what you're thinking about your marriage and how you feel about life at that point. Like, there's so much more to the book than just the murder, although that's interesting too. And then the recovery that she has to go through was super interesting too. Like, every single part of it is so interesting. And I have read it a few times at different points. And then I also just recently listened to it and got a completely different perspective. I am a very fast reader. I don't realize I'm skipping things, but if it's a lot of description, I can breeze over that and get to the main point. In an audiobook, it forces me to listen to that. So it's like a new experience. But both of those books I recommend, especially if you are in midlife, because I feel like both of them make very astute observations about our age group and stage of life. Okay, let's talk a little bit about spiritual books and authors you might enjoy reading. Cheryl, do you enjoy reading spiritual books or authors?
Yeah, so every once in a while, I'll put down the fiction. But my devotionals the last several years have been by Paul David Tripp. And
I had that book.
Yeah, he is so good. I think the one I'm doing now is New Mercies every morning or something like that. Um, and this is actually my second time to go through it. I bought it 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then picked it back up and going back through it again. It's just really good. I really, really enjoy him. An author that I've been told is really good is Bob Goff. My daughter owns a lot of those books, so I thought I'd pick those up here, this summer to read some of those. Love Does and some of the others. But yeah, Paul David Tripp probably would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Now, is that a new book? Because I think of him as from way back.
Paul David Tripp.
Is he still writing, or is
I don't know if he's still writing because the book I'm using is probably 7, 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
But I just keep going back to his writings. I follow him on social media, and I just think his blurbs and everything he does is really good.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. I've never read anything by Bob Goff, but I have heard, I don't know, is he a new author or is he just experiencing a resurgence in popularity? Because I feel like I hear about him a lot now.
Yeah, I think it's a resurgence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Julie, do you have a particular spiritual book or author that you enjoy?
Well, as far as fiction and a lot of historical fiction, I do enjoy Francine Rivers, especially her series. What's the name of it? I can never get the name right.
Oh, Mark of the Lion. It's called
Mark of the Lion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, even though it's fiction, has a lot of spiritual truth in it. But as far as nonfiction, I just really love C.S. Lewis. And one of my favorites is the Screwtape Letters. Just because it's humorous, it's kind of lighthearted, but a lot of deep insight into human nature and just our motivations and our hypocrisies and our kind of lack of self-awareness that we have, but it's all done in a light way. And if you don't know what it's about, it's exposing kind of the both sides of the battle of good versus evil that goes on in kind of the spiritual world. And it's about, do you know what it's about? It's about a demon that is instructing his nephew, who is also a demon, on how to make sure his human that he's in charge of goes to hell.
Wow.
And so it makes you very aware of how you're tempted and manipulated and, by, just our human nature.
Sure. You always make C.S. Lewis sound so much more interesting than he is when I actually read him, Julie. Because I feel like the premise of that sounds good.
The grief observed, the weight of glory. I just love all this.
I think it's just that for me, he says too many words, maybe, to get to the point. I don't know. But I want to like him.
You have to read it slow. If you're a fast reader, you can't read it fast.
That's why I can't read him, because I'm like,
Marie, I wonder if they're on audiobooks.
Oh, well, maybe.
Probably.
Maybe. Yeah. I can honestly not think of a Christian nonfiction author that I would run right out and buy their next book. I don't enjoy nonfiction. I mean, I have read them, but I do want to echo what Julie said about Francine Rivers. I learn really, really well through a story. And she used to be a secular romance author, which all women, or most women, myself included, love to read secular romance. And so she knows how to write to draw you in. But then when she became a Christian, she really started teaching through her writing. And I really, really enjoy her books, even her books like, I think I read one once on David. And I don't know, how much she had poetic license in that, but it sure did make David a lot more interesting. And when I read even passages now in the Bible recap, I think back to what she said in her book. So I would definitely recommend Francine Rivers if you feel like you want to read something with some spiritual theme or Christian theme, but you just can't keep your eyes open to read nonfiction.
And Redeeming Love, of course, is
Well, that was a very hot and steamy book, Cheryl. Very good.
But there's a lot. I mean, her fiction is that. Did you mean to say? Yeah, like there's a lot of great fiction with truth. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
And they're not all historical. Some are set in current times, like the Is it Atonement Child?
Yes, that was a good one.
Shofar Blue. Those are all set in modern times, and
yes,
she also makes you want to feel like to go back and research yourself, like to see if that was really true and not fiction. She's one of those authors that makes you want to feel that way.
Right.
Yeah.
What is your favorite book club book? You guys, we've been reading together for so long. If you had to pick one, what would you pick?
Well, mine was Defending Jacob by that
was
William
it?
Landy. It was. It still is. Like that, we did that in our first or second year of book club. Because we were at Angela's house, I think.
Yes,
and
we were.
I distinctly remember being on her little porch and talking about it. I just love that book. I would read now. That one I would read again because it's been so long.
Yeah. What did you like about it, Cheryl? Why did it?
The surprise ending.
The surprise ending.
Like it literally, I like just gasped. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Julie, what would be your favorite?
Well, I've already mentioned it. It was The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. Once again, it's a World War II setting. It's two sisters and kind of how they're very different in how they go about trying to survive the war. And it's, it's one of those books about hard choices, inner strength, endurance, and it focuses on the war that women faced. It wasn't just your typical war story about battles. It was kind of the unsung, about the unsung heroes of the war, the women who didn't really get to tell their stories.
Yeah, that is a great one. And if you have read Kristin Hannah and you think, she's okay, she's nothing, that one I feel is like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times better than any other thing she's ever written. I mean, it was like she had an out-of-body experience and was a completely different author. I mean, it was really, really well done.
Yeah, I mentioned The Great Alone and how much I enjoyed it, but The Nightingale, you're right, was just leaps and bounds better than that one even.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to think back to our very first book. The reason that I even wanted to start book club was because I had read this book and I feel like it just stuck with me. Do you remember Still Alice?
Yeah.
About the early onset Alzheimer's. And you might think, why, Marie? But again, I felt like it was such a just astute observations about women in midlife, about family, about how we feel about living and dying. I just thought it was poignant and compelling and all the things that I love. And yes, it had a sad ending, but it still made me want to talk about it. I think that's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite book club books is because if you have a sad ending, there's more to talk about. And there's a lot you can talk about there. So that book, Still Alice by Lisa Genova. How would you say that? Genova. Genova. Yeah, Lisa Genova. And then I've read her other ones too, which were good. It was kind of like then I got on a kick about her, and so I read some of her other ones. But do you guys remember reading that book?
Oh, yeah, I liked it.
I mean, she was my age and she lost it. It was like, no, I don't want to that's too much, too real. Like it could happen and it's too sad. And I didn't see any redemption in that book. So
no, there's not a lot of redemption. But
yeah,
I mean, Cheryl, were you with me in that we were that person while we read that book?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
We liked having that out-of-body experience. Like, we are this person. So we all shared kind of different favorites that we've had in book club, and we all liked them for different reasons. What do you consider, or what does a book have to have for you to declare it great? Like, what qualities, Cheryl, do you notice that I don't say it's a great book unless?
Well, of course, the mystery aspect, not knowing what's going to happen, but continue to engage you through the whole book. Like you are building up to knowing not what's going to happen. But another thing I thought about is I like books that are, the storyline of the book is sequential. Like if it goes in order, if it jumps around, it kind of loses me. So that makes a good book for me too. So really I kind of had 2 different things. I like one with a really good ending and then, or not knowing how it's going to end, I guess.
Right.
And if it goes in order, that's good too.
Yeah. Julie, what makes a book really great for you?
Great characters. I love it if it's a page turner. I guess since I'm not that big of a reader, I really have to be engaged from the beginning. It's hard for me to just keep pushing through a boring book. I want to learn something, and it can be kind of tangential to the storyline. You know what I mean? Like if there's nature or something about the setting, I always like to learn something about a different time or place. And then, like I say over and over, there has to be some redemption, something where the character grew or learned something or was changed. And then I always like to say, how am I changed by the book? I want to be changed by the book too.
Yeah. I love all those things that you guys have said. I definitely love an unpredictable ending. And I don't like it to be like out of the realm of possibility. I just don't want to know from chapter 2 how the book is going to end. I love a lot of emotion. Even if it's sad emotions, I want to live maybe someone else's life. Or if I'm reading about someone, it will help me see my own life more clearly, or I feel more known, or I learn something about myself. Like, I don't know. I have to feel really super engaged in the characters. It's got to be something where I feel like it could have happened, and it could have happened that way. And I'm just really genuinely involved. I love a good book like that. Well, what are you reading right now?
So I just finished last night the book, My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. And it's a murder mystery.
Oh, wait, tell me what it's about, Cheryl, because I think I just finished this book and I was too afraid to tell people I'd read it.
Oh, well, it's about a serial killer.
Yes.
The wife is a serial killer. And her husband aids and abets her. But the ending was surprising. Like in the prologue, like it made you kind of made you hang, thinking, well, maybe he really did it. And I don't know. It was good. It was really good. I just finished. That's the one where I was like creeping out a little bit when I was walking. I thought somebody was following me. So I was so into it. But and I do listen to a lot of the books because they make them seem like plays now. Like they have people that read them that are so good with inflection of voice and all that. So that's the one I just finished reading. But of course, anything by Diane Chamberlain, I'm scarfing up too.
Yes. I read that book, My Lovely Wife, and I couldn't decide if I liked it or hated it. It was creepy, though. Creepy.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. So
yeah,
it was not a book that Julie would like.
No.
Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, what are you reading right now, Julie?
Okay, it's a book called The Midnight Library by, trying to find the author, Matt Haig.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
I feel like I might have heard about it.
Yeah.
Okay, it says it's a feel-good book, guaranteed to lift your spirits. I'm not there yet.
Oh, no.
It hasn't lifted my spirits yet, but I do know what it's about. And it's about a girl who is wanting to commit suicide. And she discovers this midnight library, and there's all of these books. And there's the one book that's the story of her life as she lived it. All the other books are based on, had she made this choice and how from that point on, the life would have been different. And she gets to go back and relive all these. I think in the end, I'm not sure, but she's going to choose her own life.
Okay.
Wow. And yet she's ready to kill herself at the beginning, but she's going to choose the life she has versus the life she thinks she preferred.
Okay. I think I might have this on my hold list.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good. I'm not reading anything that I'm super into right now. I did just finish Cheryl's book that she recommended earlier, The Dream Daughter, and that was good. And so I was looking back on my recently read, like on my Libby app, and I was going to go back to these books. I think both Cheryl and I have really enjoyed these this year. The Mary Kubica, and one that we both recently read was The Other Misses. And it was kind of with a split personality, but a mystery. And that was a really good one. Another one by her that I have enjoyed is The Good Girl. That was a really good one for me. So if you do like some suspense, you might pick up some of her books. And then I have been reading some of our book club books too. An interesting one that we are reading for this month is called, what is it called? The Other Mrs. Einstein, Cheryl? Or no, it's called Mrs.
Einstein.
Oh, yeah, The Other Einstein.
The Other Einstein.
Yeah, and I learned so much about Albert Einstein. I don't think I like him very much after reading the book, but maybe he got a bad rap. I don't know, but it was an interesting book.
It was
Is
good.
it fiction?
It is, but I think it's based on true things.
Yeah, because it definitely has, it's about her. It's about his wife. And it leads you to believe that she was technically the smarter one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good.
Yeah, very good.
Which could have been true.
I know, it could be, yeah. Well, let's end our show by talking about beach reads, because hopefully we will all be laying in front of some kind of water this summer, whether it's our pool or the beach, or maybe just even in our own bath at home, just relaxing. I won't be relaxing in a bath, but I know maybe that Cheryl and Julie enjoy baths. But maybe we'll be reading by some water. And what are some beach reads that you guys might recommend for people to pick up?
So last summer, I read Summer of '69 by Ellen Hildebrand.
Oh, yes,
And
I like her.
yeah, that was a really good book. Like it had a lot of history in it, but yet it was still kind of light and fun. And it's about this group of friends in the summer of '69. So you kind of learn a little bit about that. And I would imagine that that's probably around the time that she was born too. I didn't look up her age, the author Ellen, but like it's a really good, it's a feel good book. And Emily Giffin is also another author that has kind of lighthearted books. Mm-hmm. All We Ever Wanted was the one that I was specifically thinking about. So, yeah, those two.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I like Emily Giffin. She was one that I read a bunch of hers, at one time. And then Ellen Hildebrand, she always has a good beach read. I mean, they are the type that you really only want to read them at the beach. Like, it's just kind of right by the water type. Yeah. Julie, do you have anything to recommend for the beach?
Probably not. I don't really care what I read at the beach. Like, that's just a good time for me to read. So I don't have to read a certain type of book. I've read lots of stuff at the beach, but this summer I want to read All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot, just because I'm loving the series, the British TV series. And those are such old books. Like, I'm embarrassed to say that I've never read them, and I've heard such good things about them. So I'm going to probably start those.
Yeah. Yeah, I have never read anything by him either, but I do hear that people are enjoying that series.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend Jodi, is it Picoult?
Pico, I think, or
Pico. Okay. Yeah. I've read a lot of her books over the years at the beach. And she writes not quite fluff, but it is easier reading, but she usually has some kind of twist or something interesting to say with her plot lines. So I enjoy her at the beach. Also, like I said earlier, I think anything of Liane Moriarty's would be good at the beach. There's so many authors that I would consider reading at the beach that I probably wouldn't get out any other time. Usually ones that have a plethora of books out there, like maybe they've written 25 books, and then that seems like good beach reading.
I did find myself gravitating toward John Grisham at the beach for a while. They're just fun, light books, but very much a page turner.
Right. And you do always learn something. Anyway. Yeah, you do always learn something too.
And Nicholas Sparks would also be one of those kind of authors.
For sure.
Good
He's
beach read.
Definitely a beach read. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, listeners, we hope that you have enjoyed this episode. We hope we've given you some ideas on books that you might like to pick up this summer, or if you are a reluctant reader, maybe some inspiration. Because Cheryl, one of our friends in book club recommended you for this podcast because they said that you are a late in life reader. And yet, look at how you've gone to town. I mean, didn't you keep track of how many books you read one year? And it was how many?
2020, which of course was, everybody was quarantined, but I did 85 books that year in 2020. So
wow. Amazing. 85 books. Bravo. Oh, that's awesome.
I couldn't focus on anything in 2020.
Now, don't ask me what they were all about.
You can't remember any of them.
I would only remember the good ones.
Yeah. Well, listeners, we would love to hear from you. Maybe we can put some of these questions on our Instagram this week. What are your favorite beach reads? What are your favorite classics? What are some of your favorite authors? If ever anyone I follow on Instagram, Emily Clark, we've had her on before, and she's one of the people that will often post about books. I immediately go and put them on my hold list because I know that she has similar reading tastes now after following her a while, and I know I'm probably going to like it too. That was how I recently found out about the book that Cheryl and I both enjoyed, The Push, that we are going to be pushing book club to read next, Julie, and you're not going to like it, but you'll thank us at the end.
I guess there's a surprise ending.
Yeah.
Lots of discussion.
Lots of discussion. All right, ladies. Well, thanks for joining me to talk about books today, and happy reading.
Yes.
Happy reading.
Thanks,
right.
Cheryl.
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl. And we'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye. Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.